Hello, friends, and welcome. I just want to say thank you to all my old subscribers for hanging in there with me, and welcome my new subscribers. But if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos. So when I came home from running errands today, this was at my door, and I was like, this is crazy. FedEx has lost their mind. There are holes in this box and everything else. And I was like, this is unbelievable. So when I realized what was inside of it, I realized that the holes were intentional and they were not made by FedEx. So these are the worms that I ordered because I want to make some worm castings. I do not like to touch worms, but I was like, I'm going to do this. So I bought some bins and I'm going to make my worm bin house, hut, whatever you want to call it. And we are going to get started. I did get some of this bedding to go inside. So I got 3 of these black totes with the tops from Walmart. They were $12.48 each. And I got 3 of them. I'm going to use 2 for now to start this worm bin. One's going to have the worms in with holes in it. And then the bottom one's going to be solid to catch any of the worm tea. So let's get started drilling these holes. And I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just drilling holes every couple of inches in the bottom. And then I'll go along and do a row in around the side at the very top, just for air ventilation. So while I'm doing the holes, I have my bedding soaking here in about 10 cups of water. It just says 9 to 10. While I'm doing my holes, that will be soaking up the liquid. So I'm just going to get finishing these holes in the bottom. As you can see, I'm just spacing them every couple of inches. So now that I've done that, you can see it a little better. I'm also going to put some holes in the top, also for ventilation. So my bedding is soaking up the liquid. I'm going to flip it over and help it out. So while the bedding is finishing absorbing the water, I'm going to get my worms ready. It says to put about a half a cup on them to rehydrate them. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to dump the worms into the extra empty tote that I have. And I'm just going to put some water on them. And like I said, I do not like to touch worms. So this is going to work for me. I put on my gloves, my gardening gloves, and I'm going to stir them with a stick very gently after I pour the water on them. I used more than they recommended amount, but I think they'll be okay. Hopefully they will. And they will reabsorb the water because they are looking very dry. And they seem to be moving okay. So I think I'm going to be okay. So most of the bedding has absorbed the water. I have a little bit of a brick here left, and I'm going to leave that for the top. I'll use some water on that separately. So I have a bed of leaves here in my container that I'm going to use. And then I'm just going to mix in this bedding and just mix it around. Then I'm going to add in my worms, and then I'm going to add in the food that I have. So the worms seem to be no worse for the wear for their travels, and they seem to be absorbing the water that I put them in. So here I have some coffee grounds I sprinkled in as well. Here I have some food scrap, some kitchen waste, and my worms seem to be absorbing the liquid really good. So I think it's time to start adding them to this bin and then get the food on top of them and then the top bedding. And just close this up and call it a day. So I decided to put the food in first because I wanted to break it up a little bit smaller than what it was. And I have a head of lettuce that I need to cut up as well to make it easier for the worms to digest. So I'm going to put the food in first and then cut it up and then put the worms in and then put the rest of the bedding on top to keep them warm because it's still cold here nights. We still have snow on the ground, so I'm going to actually put them in my garage because night temps are really cold, and hopefully they'll stay warm enough to where I won't lose them. So my worms are in on top of the food and the bedding, and then I'm going to put the rest of the bedding on top just to keep them warm, and hopefully, cross my fingers, it's not going to be too cold in my garage. If not, I would have to think of something else to do with them, but I think this should work. So here they are in my garage, and I did decide to put a layer of newspaper on the top just for some added warmth and protection from the cold tonight, because we are still dipping down just above freezing nights here. So as you can see, I put the bedding on the top, but they still haven't moved down through the layers yet. So hopefully they do that before it gets too cold tonight and they survive, because I would hate to lose my worms. So little update, the first night I did lose a couple. They decided to crawl up onto the lid. Actually, one crawled out of the bin completely, and it was dead on my garage floor. The other one was stuck to the top, and I had another one that was stuck kind of up in the top area, not quite at the top. But all in all, they are doing fairly good, and I think this is going to work. So the temps continue to drop down in the following days, say 3 days or so. And I did bring them inside to keep them warm. But we have warmed up, and hopefully these temperatures will consistently be well above freezing. Days are in the 50s, so I've taken them outside just to acclimate them and get them warmed up and get some fresh air. And hopefully our temperatures will stay up and I can keep them back in my garage. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and click that notification button to be notified when we upload videos.